Hey folks, my name's John, but my friends call me Izzy and you can too. This is Izzy's Painting Workshop. Hey folks, so today's episode is all about getting good at rimming. Base rimming, that is. So we're going to go through how to mark off line of sight markers on your Infinity models and how to have a unique way to make your bases and your line of sight markings. And we're going to be using the Maxx Darth paint again because that stuff's actually pretty cool. Just putting it out there, this video is not sponsored by anybody because nobody will sponsor my videos. Alright, let's get cracking. Alright guys, so we're gonna take this plain Jane base that we haven't really done much with, the base rimming for it yet, and we're gonna turn it into something like that, with that really dark base rim and that super bright marking. So for this we're going to need Maxx Darth, any kind of magenta or fluorescent paint will do, whatever your taste, but I use Mecha Color because that's what I've got. A white paint, and ultra matte varnish because this tends to be glossy and we want to cut off that shine so that we just have a nice matte color. And rather than working in a wet palette today, we're just going to use a regular old artist palette, that we beat to snot. We're not worried about mixing, we're not worried about our colors staying wet for a long time. So, put this off to the side here. And we're going to need one of these that you can get from Broken Egg Games. It's going to mark off our 25mm edges. So you put it down there and it'll mark off the edges. And we're also going to need just a pen. Just a felt tip pen. Any felt tip pen will do. This is the one I got on hand. So first decide what you want the models facing to be, and I think this is about where I want it to be, and just mark it off with the pen. And I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there's the light marking from the pen. It's not heavy, but it's there, and you notice it's there. And we're done with this. And then we're gonna take our white paint, shake it. And we're going to just put a little bit in the palette. And we're going to take our fluorescent. Once again, it could be magenta, it could be green, it could be orange, whatever kind of fluorescent you want to use for your army, that's fine. I'll put some of that in here. And we'll take a brush. This is a Winsor Newton Series 7, but it's also like beaten to snot. It's, you know, it's definitely seen better days. And we're gonna get a paper towel out here. Actually, we're gonna put this guy back on a. We're gonna put this guy back on a holder, and I can see the. Can I see the pen marks? Yes and yes. Okay. So we're gonna get some of our white. And we're gonna just mark off where that pen line was. Don't worry if it gets a little thick. Just mark it off. And then the other side. Right, am I reading this right? Yeah. Alright, and since it's white paint over black, probably gonna have to give this a couple of coats. Couple of coats, and don't be afraid to go over this a couple of times. You want this as bright as you can get it. I mean, I guess you could probably use a titanium white on it, but I don't know. I'm not sure that it would be too thick to use for just this baseline. That's looking pretty white. Get that off. Now, I'd recommend using a brush that's somewhat older for this, because especially when you paint with neon colors, they can gunk up your brush. And we're just gonna put a coat of that neon over that. Actually, that kind of messed up our white a little bit, so we're gonna put some white back over that. And we're actually just going to let this white dry. And we'll come back in a few. Okay, so by now our white paint has dried, and now we're going to use our neon paint. I'm just going to slop it on there. Don't even worry about being a little sloppy. And this stuff comes out kind of thin, so you're going to have to do it in a couple of coats. Like, it's pretty transparent, so we're going to have to do it in a couple of coats. Put it on, let it dry a second, put on the next coat, and just kind of dab it on. You don't want to brush too much because that could like upset the paint underneath it, and it'll like pull up the white. We just keep coating it with that And you can see that it goes on pretty glossy. It's wet still, but it's a glossy paint. And we're going to take care of that in a minute. We're going to take care of that in a little bit, but first we're going to do a couple of good layers of this. And it basically, do a layer, let it dry. Well, do a layer, turn over, do a layer, let it dry, and then come back and do another layer, do another layer. So we'll come back in a little bit when we're done doing that. Okay, so we've got a pretty saturated color at this point. We put a bunch of layers, and as you can see, it's really glossy. So this is where our ultra matte AK varnish comes in. We're gonna paint this over this stuff. We're not gonna airbrush it. We're gonna paint it with a brush in a controlled area to just get rid of that gloss. So shake your paint a lot because this stuff tends to separate, so you gotta shake it. And we'll just put a couple of drops in here. And I just like to get my brush wet before I put paint in it. And we're just gonna slap that on there. Go to the other side. Slap that on there. And let that first layer dry. It shouldn't probably take too many layers of ultra matte. This stuff works pretty quick. Like even if I blow on it, I think. Yeah, as it's drying, get that out of the brush. Clean your brush so that it doesn't have matte varnish dried up in it. I'm just blowing on it. So, yeah. And actually, I'm gonna put another coat on there. It's not gonna hurt to put another coat on. Okay. And we'll come back to this in a minute after it's dry. Alright, so we've let this dry some, and you can see that it's much more matte. It's very matte at this point. So at this point we get out our Green Stuff World Maxx Darth, and the reason why we get the Maxx Darth out after we hit it with a matte is because if you use matte varnish over this paint, the whole point of this paint is to be as dark as possible. If you hit it with a matte varnish, it will lighten it up. It will diffuse the effect and it will lighten it up. So we want to use this to get that full dark black beautiful finish that we have here. We want to use this straight. We want to use this straight out of the bottle. And we don't want it to have any matte varnish over it. So shake this up, and as you can hear, it's got an agitator ball on it, so that's kind of cool. Shake that up and put some in here. That should be enough. We're not painting an entire army right now or something. We're just doing one base. And you can go in here with a wet brush and thin it a little bit when you're doing this. It comes out of the bottle pretty thick, so you might want to thin it a little bit. And what we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is we're just going to thin down this line. We're gonna get this to a thin line that we want, as thin as we want to mark our base. And just bring it in and bring it in and bring it in. And bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Get it straight. Okay. So first we get the straight line. And we'll do that to the other side as well. And you just bring it in. And then bring it in. So it's just a nice straight line. That's why it wasn't that big a deal that we went a little big before, like that we had our thick line, because we're bringing it back in with this anyway. And now that you've got your line where you want it, just go around the whole base and rim the base. It's just go ahead and get in there. And I get a touch of water in it just to lighten it up, but like it's okay if it goes on a little thick, because this is a base rim. You're not covering up detail. Yeah. So just go around and maybe even put a little bit of a second coat over there. Just keep going around. You're going to want to do this in a few coats, because it takes a couple of coats in order for this stuff to really come to full potency and full effect. That's what I found, at least. And I mean, there you go. I mean, we're just rimming a base and getting that nice satisfaction. Get this guy out here like that. And yeah, I can put another coat over that, and yeah, just brush it over. Yeah, a little bit of water goes a long way to just make this flow a lot better. And once again, like I said, you're going to want to put a couple coats on this, because that's what it takes for it to come to full potency. And just be careful when you're coming around the part that you trimmed up. So you don't want to, we've already covered up as much of that neon as we want to cover up. We don't want to be covering up more of it. About 2 or 3 coats of it should be enough. 2 or 3 coats with a little bit of water added to it should be enough. And we'll come back to that when it's dry. Alright, and here we have it after it's dry, and you can see that nice dark black around, and that neon just sets it off. And that's our cool looking base rim. So if you want to rim your infinity bases, this is a way to do it. Alright.